Hi, and thanks for joining us here at Redwood Logistics to talk about an important topic, supply chain sustainability. Today's theme, See Your Total Freight Footprint. I'm Nate Greenspan, a product leader here at Redwood Logistics, and have the honor of helping to build our new sustainability program, including Redwood Hyperion, our freight emissions visibility product, and Eco Advisory to reduce emissions and costs through freight optimization. I am joined by my friend and colleague, Ben Matheson. Ben, could you start us off by introducing yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Nate. It's a real pleasure working with you and to be having this conversation with our friends on LinkedIn. I'm Ben Matheson, Director of Strategic Sales. I also serve as Redwood Sales Principal for our Hyperion emissions calculation technology, as well as our sustainability offerings more broadly. At my core, I'd say I'm a logistics technologist. I've spent about 15 years servicing the logistics space, working with shippers and carriers and brokers and 3PLs and 4PLs like we are here at Redwood. And a lot of that time has been focused on TMS, but also the many systems that interact with TMSs to feed information or receive information from them. So, of course, one of the biggest ways business is changing right now is around this push for companies to operate more sustainably. So I'm really pleased to be having this conversation on what we're seeing here at Redwood, as well as where we think we can help address some of those emissions challenges within the supply chain more broadly. All right, so enough about me. Nate, you have been instrumental bringing our sustainability offerings to life. So maybe as a way of kicking off, why sustainability now? What's driving this shift?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as a product person, I can't just take off my product hat. I always start with the questions of, is there a problem? What is that problem statement? And is that problem something that we should be solving now? And in this case, the answer to all of those things are yes, yes, and yes. We all have cell phones. We get mobile notifications pushed to us every day. And we can see, not to say the world's on fire, but that over the last couple of months, we have been seeing record temperatures month by month increasing across the globe. So today, it's clear that the answer is yes, climate change is making an impact. And a couple of years ago, within the four walls of Redwood, we started asking this question. And at that time, we were seeing data that suggested transportation is responsible for up to around 30% of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States, with our industry having a significant portion of that. So we decided, let's dig in deeper and see what can Redwood do through our own ESG objectives, but also what can we be doing for our customers? Should we be doing anything for our customers? And through that research, we really found three main pillars of drivers. The first being government. So we can look at the EU, where there are regulations out there like CSRD, or domestic United States, where there are proposals like the SEC's climate disclosure proposal, or even just at global meetings like COP27. What's clear is companies of a certain size already need to be reporting some of their scopes of emissions, and clear trend lines that organizations across any size are going to ultimately, not to say looking in a crystal ball, but just a little bit, there's a high likelihood that organizations globally are going to need to be reporting emissions. And we're seeing that also is going to ultimately include scope 3, which is where a majority of transportation falls under. The second dimension is social, which, to put that briefly, it's greater and greater demand from end consumers, which then becomes investors to act more responsibly and sustainably. And that just creates a flywheel effect that just reinforces itself more towards sustainability and responsibility. That walks itself right into the third dimension, which is the marketplace. Now, this could be companies that are marketing themselves as sustainable. That gets reinforced by what consumers are looking for out of companies that they vote with their dollar by purchasing from. There's a lot of data out there I find really fascinating that points towards sustainably marketed products and services that are outgrowing conventionally marketed company products and services. In addition, there's just greater technology, greater capabilities, and more standards out there around behaving responsibly, sustainably, purchasing carbon credits, measuring and accounting for your emissions. So these three drivers together really are what brought us to saying, yes, we should be providing some services and products to support our customers in the space.
Sure. So clearly a lot of focus here. Maybe let's dig into a little bit about what Redwood, we're a business, right? So what are we doing here at Redwood?
Yeah, of course. Redwood, touch on this briefly, like Redwood a couple of years ago really started looking to our own ESG strategy. And Redwood ourselves, within the last couple of years, we've developed and launched our Redwood Hyperion product offering, which we're going to talk a little bit more about today for how that can measure your emissions, your freight-based emissions. Eco Advisory around, which is something that we've been providing for over a decade through our managed services offering to be able to reduce emissions through freight optimization. But taking that a step further, we've been doing a lot internally, whether it's through purchasing trees for like Arbor Day. We also last year, for the first time, participated in the EcoVadis assessment as an ESG assessment. Really happy to say we were awarded the bronze medal for meeting a high caliber of ESG. So we're continuing to grow within our own goals within the ESG space and sustainability space while providing solutions to our end customers. Which Ben, I'd love to throw a question to you on this. While we have our goals and our own strategies that we're continuing to try to push the ball forward on, you're having conversations with customers out there every day. What are you seeing from customers around what their sustainability goals and objectives look like?
I get to have conversations that range the gambit, right? Sometimes I'll be working with a company where, they're mildly aware of it. They know that they've been asked, by somebody, maybe in marketing, maybe somewhere else, hey, logistics team, I need you to start having an idea what this is. And so they're looking to us to help educate them. And it's really like starting from square one. What is scope one? What's scope two? What's scope three? Other times I'm working with like global industry leaders, folks that, are leading the way and holding, worldwide seminars. And they really have a strong handle on their scope 1 and 2, things that they can kind of get direct line of sight to. And now their evolution is more, hey, how do we round out that scope 3 emissions, which, by definition are the hardest ones, because scope 3 are the indirect ones, the emissions you don't get a direct line of sight to because they are from a third party that you contracted with. And so for them, I'm more aligning with, hey, what framework do you use? Are you in SBTI? We talk about what calculations what standard of calculations we use. We at Redwood are aligned with the Global Logistics Emissions Council standard, or GLEC. And so we get to have, from the early stages all the way up to, all the really kind of thought leaders. It's really fun to kind of sit in that space and meet people really where they are and figure out where at Redwood can we help add value.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how, you started that by saying the customers you talk to run the gambit, because I always think about sustainability as a journey. It's a rapidly evolving space. There are new products, just like we're bringing to market, that are coming out regularly. There are new concepts or ways of thinking about how do we measure or reduce our emissions. So, I'd be remiss not to mention, part of that, not to oversimplify a playbook and just throw the playbooks out there, but we always say you can't act on what you don't measure, whether that's sustainable from a data perspective, what have you. And first it starts with measuring, then you can take action to reduce. But ultimately, there's a lot of companies out there that are looking to be a net neutral organization, a carbon neutral organization. And you can't do that because without some amount of carbon credits or offsetting, in the sense that there are unavoidable emissions. So that's why Redwood, through our solution, has partnered with this great sustainability organization, Cloverly, where not only are we able to curate carbon credits for companies who that's a part of their goal, but it's not, and not only just through verified registries, but there's that added layer of verification that comes through Cloverly. And
Sure.
and with that, I mean, we can talk about goals and objectives for quite a long time. But Ben, I'd love to hear. You're talking about Hyperion regularly. How would you share just a little bit about Redwood Hyperion, what it is, how it works for our guests here today?
Yeah, so Hyperion is a really exciting tool for our industry. So at its core, what it's doing is it is helping folks calculate on a shipment by shipment, load by load, leg by leg, what was the carbon impact of moving this freight, using, like I said, that industry-wide kind of standard that GLEC sets, and then we can report that out. And now companies have the ability to do two things. One, they can start looking at, some customers look at it as, hey, what's my carbon impact by division if they've got multiple divisions, or the carbon cost to serve this customer, or this DC, right? Other times, the part I'm most excited about is now that we're measuring, there's all these capabilities within TMSs and others to optimize. And it's intuitive that if I remove miles, sure, carbon goes down, or if I can consolidate loads, carbon goes down, but by how much? And then, so now that you have that feedback loop of I can see what the impact was, I can change the dial, I can see if it moved the needle where I wanted it to go. And we do it seamlessly, right? So we want to connect to source systems. So whether that's your TMS, your ERP, your freight audit and pay company, does wherever we can get the data, right? It integrates in through API. It automatically does the calculation, and we can even then connect it to destination systems like business intelligence systems like Tableau or Snowflake or Qlik, or even back to ERP or out to your CRM, so that you can get like if you buy a pair of Allbirds, right? You might say, well, this was the cost of those shoes, but they also tell you the carbon. We can enable all of that on a perfect shipment by shipment level. Not just here's the one number with no detail behind it. It's super exciting. I could geek out forever, but I know that we're limited in the space here.
I know you and I could nerd out on not just our solutions and how we're able to help customers, but great companies like Allbirds. Not that I'm wearing a pair right now, but in the work that they're doing in this space. So Ben, if anyone is interested in learning more, getting more information, what's the best way for them to do that?
All right, so we're here on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me here. You can also, of course, go to our website. There's tons of information there. Like all good websites, we give you a way to reach out. And then, hey, if you're listening and you are currently moving any freight with Redwood, I want you to know you should be getting this carbon calculation for free today. So if you're somebody that hasn't yet signed up, please reach out. It's free. I'd love to meet you and get that going for you.
Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. And thank you for joining.
Thanks.